Let's rebuild what George W. Bush took away from us. Basically, 9/11 was an inside job purported in a way to get public opinion behind the invasion of Afghanistan or Iraq or whatever. I fully support Twin Towers 2. I fully support Twin Towers 2. We gotta build those towers back up. And basically, I'll talk about this in another video, but people like to call people like me religious and say, oh, religions are terrorists. Basically, they're not understanding some proper determination here. The gospel is far from religion. And basically, the gospel of Jesus Christ was brought to America and people began building up buildings. And religious cults are no question that Islam is guilty for many terrorist attacks. But basically, 9/11 is just too questionable. There's a lot of anomalies and so on that just do not agree with the official story. There's just way too much evidence that was basically an inside job, the same way that Hitler burned his own country's parliament building to blame it on other people. And there's a lot of evidence that George W. Bush's grandfather helped Adolf Hitler rise to power. And so these acts committed by George W. Bush are kind of like fascist and so on. That does not mean Republicanism is bad. He was just giving Republicans a bad look. I mean, just for sake, even if they were like this other guy would have promoted abortion or homosexuality or whatever, I wish Al Gore had gotten into the White House instead of Bush. Because without George W. Bush, there wouldn't have been no 9/11. And I'm not saying, oh, 9/11 was an inside job and that's it. There's a lot of legitimate evidence and arguments to show why it does not agree with the official story and why it is a big, horrendous, one of the biggest lies ever done in history. So, rebuild the Twin Towers, make them stronger, make them higher, make them more stable, and right next to the original towers, make the memorial for the two Twin Towers. Forget the mosque. I mean, like, forget about religious hypocrites who do not tolerate, for example, Christians like us to build like a church of worship in anywhere in the Middle East, but then they come to America and say, you ought to be more tolerant of us. What religious hypocrisy. I'll talk about that in another video. But anyway, rebuild the Twin Towers. I want them back there. I mean, it's been what? Like, nearly 10 years now? Nearly 10 years? Or, more specifically, 9 years. But, I mean, come on. They could have rebuilt them, like, thinking, oh, terrorists are flying all over the place. That was not a terrorist attack. It was an inside job done by George W. Bush and Dick Cheney, and they ought to be thrown in prison.